So about a month ago, I read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book was hard to decide to talk about. It is about a 16-year-old black girl who witnesses the police shooting her friend from childhood. She's dealing with two different worlds, the world that she lives in, which is predominantly black, and the world that she goes to school in, which is predominantly white. And then she additionally has to deal with the complexity of the situation as it arises, especially with her as the only witness, but still experiencing a lot of trauma from that event. I don't experience things like this, and I never will have to. I will never understand this fully, no matter how many people I talk to, no matter how many books I read, so I am not qualified to judge the book in all of its aspects. So, please let me know if I say anything even like remotely sketchy, because I don't want to say things like that, and it would be immensely helpful to me and then the people I will interact with in the future if you could like let me know now. So this book addresses the subject very much head on. It is like very well steep in the real world in a way that you can tell that the author's like been a part of it. Like some of the things that Star takes part of after she experienced this are via Tumblr, which in the real world is where a lot of social justice people either gather or are created. And like marches and activism and like stuff that is happening and like attitudes that people have and questions that they're thinking about that are happening right now. Like I don't know whether the author has been a part of these things. I am just assuming that strongly based on how well she has expressed them. The interactions and the relationships that occur in the story are just so like intricate and well done, and there's not any like the best friend who's endlessly supportive or like that terrible person who we don't like for reasons X, Y, and Z. There's like such rich complexity to each character. Even though if you like heard the story of your life, you'd be like, yeah, that's a villain in someone's story. Once you actually see them talking and see them interacting and how Star feels about them, and you just like care so much. The end was kind of like the end of a biopic for some reason. And like, and so did this, and so did this, and I like cared about all of them. That's hard to do. I just enjoyed being like steeped in these complex people's lives. The family dynamics are great. She loves her family so much, but they also like really annoy her, and they're divided on some things, and she doesn't tell her parents about certain parts of her life, and she doesn't tell her siblings about other parts, and like isn't sure. Like there are very unique sibling dynamics that she has to navigate, and it's just so rich, and each of them are unique, and not unique in like they have some weird like fascination with Norse mythology or something, which is fine, that's interesting, but it's not like as interesting as the way that the characters are put together. And I don't want to say anything because I want you to like be able to experience this as you read it, because it's really good. The story also really well expresses the experience of being like not quite one thing and not quite another, as she like changes her speech patterns and what she talks about and what kind of pop culture she references and how she stands and how she shows respect and all sorts of different things depending on the situation she's in, particularly like the racial identity of the group that she's in. And it expresses really well the conflicts within that and like the friendships and things in general, and the weirdness of like going into a conversation trying to tell someone the way that they hurt you, like coming out of the conversation believing like what you did wrong, and just how like weird and bad that is. Especially with people's like militaristic defensiveness against being called racist or sexist or anything like that. They're like, that is not me. Those are the bad people. How dare you? So Star trying to express that someone has hurt her in a way that is specifically tied to race is so difficult of a task to accomplish, and she just like keeps trying in different ways and has to like talk to different people about how to navigate that in ways that like totally aren't on her because she wasn't the one who did the bad thing in the first place. There's the struggle for identity, and not just like racial identity, although there is a lot of that, but also just like teen girl stuff, because like in addition to carrying the weight of like all of the racial divides and racism and blah in the country, she also is just like being a 16-year-old girl who would maybe like to go to a dance with someone, and just like navigating friend stuff and doing homework and like trying to figure out her own identity and how to express that and where it comes from. And there's such complexity to the ways that she has to deal with the situation that she's been given of being the only witness, because people don't know that it's her. The police know that it's her, and she can choose to go in and testify or not testify or tell people about it, not tell people about it. Like, she knows what happened. She knows the truth, and she has to decide whether it's worth sharing and how. This book is and will continue to be relevant even when some of these conversations are no longer being held. I think, as cliche as it is, that it is essential to immerse yourself in stories for the sake of empathy. And this book did that without being like preachy or formulaic or oversimplistic. And there's never a point where like sit down and explain the ideology of this, because there is no like simple answer. Just like in real life, you have to like sit with Star and wrestle with it, with her, because systemic injustice is complicated in the real world and in the book. So if you're willing to do a little bit of that wrestling, I think you'll have a really good experience. I'm sorry. All right. I did not care about anything, and then I was like, wow, the real world sucks. But it's not forced or like corporate, you know, the way that... Do I have to unplug that? I don't care. And it's not... There's a... Yeah. Duh! I'm a floating head. I was originally gonna wear this shirt, and then I realized that I blended into the wall. I've been sitting on a hardwood floor for about half an hour. Both my legs are asleep. All right, this has been fun.